This is your day now, your day to shine. Take back the gifts you have and make the world your shrine. Make it you have and make the world your shrine. This is your day now, your day to shine.
Alfieri. She's a director, a producer, director, filmmaker, actress, and she's living in Germany at the moment. She's Italian. She's born in Italy, and I'm really looking forward to introducing her to Moving On TV. So we'll wait. In the meantime, I hope you're all doing well. And after the interview with Anna, I'm actually running a bit early at the moment. So let's just put on a promo. She's here.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hang on a minute. I can hear you. I can't see you.
You can't see me.
Oh, there you are. There you are. Hey. How are you?
Well, too bad.
Well, it's really lovely to introduce you to Moving On TV. It's been quite a long time since I saw you, since we met. And we're on the Lauren Hogg Glory show.
Thank you so much. On the show.
Hi, Cara. We've got Cara on. Hi, Cara. It's lovely to see you. Cara's in Ireland. She lives in Ireland. I haven't seen her for a while. This is Anna. It's lovely that your name has come up as well, so I don't have to worry about that. So, yeah, it's really lovely to meet you again. I'm just going to say that the first time I met Anna, we're going back about 2015, I think we made Little Women. So we did actually do a pilot at the end. We managed to get the pilot done. And you came to audition, I think, for the part of, I just asked the messages, Kara's just saying hi. You came to audition, and I think it was for the part of Joe. And as you know, I cast someone else. She was raw. I mean, she was really, really, all over the place, and exactly what I thought was needed for the part of Joe. And then she was so raw that she didn't actually turn up to the rehearsal. She dropped out, and we were left there was a big issue with Joe. We couldn't cast it. I don't know why I couldn't get back in touch with you. And maybe you'd gone to live somewhere else. But I remember the day we had to find someone on the actual day, because for some reason people started dropping out all over the place. It was like we were cursed when it came to the part of Joe. We contacted the local drama school, and they sent us an actress, and she literally learned the part on the spot. She learned it on the spot, and we filmed it. And that was it. We got our pilot done, and because it's Christmas, we always put it on at Christmas. But I remember that you turned up to the audition, and I like that. So what's been going on with you? I mean, there's been a lot going on with you. You're living in Germany now. You've made a film, and oh God, I have to ask you some things about that film, which I will say I'm trying to stay very. How can I put it? Moving On TV has no watershed, right? It's a very, very innocent TV station where kids can watch it as well. The only time I've done programs that kids weren't allowed to watch is when I was doing the really serious truth media, and then I had to make sure that kids couldn't come on to watch it. So it's done a lot later. I was putting the interviews on later. But I'll get to the film in a minute. But in the meantime, what's been going on with you? You're now in Germany and you're watching, but we can't talk about that, by the way. We can only talk about everything that isn't politics. Unfortunately, that's how it is on here. But so it's about 7 years now since I last saw you. And so tell me, what's going on with you? you know, how are things been going the last 7 years? What took you from coming to an audition on Star Now for the part of Joe on Little Women to creating your own film, which is produced by you, directed by you, starred you in all your glory, and I swear to God, I don't know what the hell. I have to say it, but you know how could you? How do you do it? There's no way. There's just no way.
Desperation is the answer. You can only do if you're desperate. I think everyone knows this now. Like,
Okay. So
desperation is.
do you want to talk about that? Because I want
Yeah.
I want it to come out of your mouth, because the furthest I go is I'm covered by nature. That's it. I don't go any further. Covered by, but it was literally full blown from the minute you went on. And so, you know, I'm not going to judge. It was a beautiful film. It was made beautifully. You're very talented. You're an amazing actress. Both the other actress. I got the point. Obsessive love and codependency and everything that is they label BPD with, everything. So I'll let you talk now, because I'm very interested in how long ago when did you make the film? What year was it?
So I started making the film. It was early 2017. And I actually finished the very last, the final draft was finished exactly at this time of the year last year. So exactly a year ago, I was in a mixing studio in North London with my lovely, don't know why I'm, gesturing as if he was there, he's not there, with my lovely sound engineer Panos, and we did the final mix in like 3 days, and that was the end of it. And then the film premiered IFFI Goa, which is like the biggest festival of India, and the oldest as well. And yeah, so it's been a very long journey.
Okay, but it's very risky. It's a very risky. It's like not everyone's going to be able to go and see that film. I mean, come on, it's very
Yeah, I'm actually really happy you
yeah,
say that.
yeah.
I think the whole point was bravery. And I think you can't expect. I mean, maybe I'm the sort of person that cannot expect to be happy with what she does unless she's brave. And I think when we talk about artistry and creativity, the two things really seem to go hand in hand. You gotta be brave. You gotta be brave because by definition, being an artist is being brave. So for me, like, it was a no-brainer. It was like, this is the film I want to make. It doesn't matter what. But it wasn't so much. It was really a necessity for me to make this film. It was a cathartic operation that needed to happen in order for me to move on. It was a way to move on. Like, it was therapy. And it's the way I've always seen acting and any form of creative expression. Like it's
Okay.
a way of life, and I think a lot of people don't understand the difference between that and, oh, I want to do this job because it sounds good or because I want to be in front of the camera. No, it's more like, yeah, I think if you saw the film and you saw the end of it, you must have got this, this compelling idea of it's a need. It's a need. I can't live without this thing. It's almost like, eating and drinking and other things that we need.
Well,
So,
yeah. We're talking about the void. You know, the
the
void where
void.
you go back into the void. The only place you can
Yeah.
go when you have an addiction, and we all have addictions in one
Yeah.
form or another. And when you're addicted to another person, like with you, like the character tried
Yeah.
to do everything to get this girl out of her mind, this
Yeah.
woman out of her mind, sticking around. And then, of course, the scene at the end, which was like mind blowing, which is self-harming in order to, because you were with self-harming, and it's like the physical pain is covers up the emotional pain. So going to that level, and then within a year you come back at the end. Well, I shouldn't be giving away the ending.
Spoiler alert.
No, I'm not going to give away the ending, obviously. You know, I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to be very, very blunt with you because I do go for the kill, okay? And I'll be as nice as I can be. But why so much nudity? So people are going to
All
say,
right, all
"Oh, we
right.
want to
Well,
see it."
yeah,
So,
no, so I
why so
guess
much nudity?
because I mean, it wasn't like I first of all, like for people that haven't watched the film, I would like to clarify that the sort of nudity that I have is, and I think you can attest to this, is quite delicate. I don't think it could be labeled as vulgar. Even my sex scenes are kind of like very arty and all that. But I think at the same time, you saw how real the film is and how precious I was in order to like precious about maintaining that realism, which is borderline. Like a lot of people said, like this is borderline reality. This film, because it's so real, it almost feels like a documentary at times. And I think the nudity for me was about that. Was about being very like no filters and about being naked physically the same way I am naked emotionally in the film, if that makes sense. And so if a scene asks for nudity because it's needed and not because I want to show my tits. Sorry for, but you know what I mean. So it was that kind of like I didn't want to hide in any way, and I wanted to be sort of like out there as much as I could. But yeah, in a real way.
I mean, okay, so I mean, from the beginning, the first scene, as I say, everybody, there's usually men on here, young men, they'll all go and rush to find Borderline. You see that coming on.
Yes,
I
good
can see it
publicity that
coming on here
you're doing.
because they know that I'm moving on
Yeah,
TV. You know, I don't put anything on
yeah,
except,
yeah,
you know, so the way we're going to talk about this is the vulnerability of that, of you, the vulnerable
yeah,
character, the lead
yeah,
character. She's so vulnerable, and I can understand why the scene is like that when you see her like that. I mean, it shocks you, and I was shocked because I know you a little bit, and it was like, oh my god, you know what am I going to be watching here? But
yeah,
I understand the vulnerability,
yeah,
and where you were trying to you're trying to expose every part of you to explain what's really going on inside. You need to
yeah.
take the clothes, everything needs to come off. I understand that, but how? I mean, how did you get past that? Did you have to do a lot of work with yourself to be able to get to a level where you could be filmed like that?
I
Or
had already done all that work in my previous 8 years of acting. So I had already done like nudity in other films. I had worked as a model in front of photographers, you know. So I guess, yeah, at that stage, you're so like free and you're so like, you literally have no shame in a way. Yeah, I mean, in a good way, you know, like hopefully in a good way. So in a weird way, I guess like it doesn't make you don't even realize that you're naked. You don't because you're not conscious. It's the total lack of self-consciousness. And the only thing that matters is the reality of the film that you are living. And like the beautiful thing that, you know, like, but this is true for every film, not just mine, you know, when that magic, that sort of magic creates, like the moment I could action, because this was my film, so I was the one calling action. And the impression was that I disappeared in the scene. My DOP was disappearing behind the camera, and my actress, well, if she was there with me, she was disappearing into this magical imaginary world with me. But you know, we were really living that, which is really the reason why I chose to improvise around the plot outline, because I wanted that. I wanted the scenes to come to life like that, and to allow that natural progression. And we also filmed everything chronologically, reconstructing the story as faithfully as we could. And there's so much stuff that I filmed that is not in the film. Like I have 40 hours of material, all improvised, so I could make, like, you know, a super long film, I guess. But yeah, that's why it took me so long to edit this down to 2 hours, because it was like the first cut was 3 hours, sorry, yeah, and then 2.5, and then finally after 2 years of editing I got to 2 hours, 1 hour 50, which is still long, but you know, bearable. So that's why I had a few problems with distributors and festivals, because they were all complaining about length. So,
Yeah, I know what you mean. You always have to cut down. Like when I did Fiat in Fringe, we got something like 40 minutes. That was it. You don't get more than that when you do like Fringe, when you know you're doing theatre festivals and stuff like
oh yeah,
that. You can only do a shorter version.
yeah,
And but coming back, you know, I've never made a film. I run a TV station. I've never made a film. I'd love to. But I've never actually made a proper film. I've done the credits for a film. I sang because I've always been a classical singer, but I've never made a film. So have you done any stage work apart from film? And what can you explain to people that are watching? Obviously I know, but in your experience, what's the difference between, because as I say, I've never made a film.
yeah,
I have made a TV pilot, so I know that, you know, I know the difference because I'm a trained actress and I've done work on film when I was doing my training. But
yeah.
so what is for you the predominant difference, apart from projecting your voice when you're
Yeah,
on
yeah.
stage? What other stuff comes in? You know, do you prefer making films, or do you prefer being on the stage? Because I would always prefer to be on the stage in front of an audience and to
Yeah.
get that, you know. But what's your opinion about it?
No, I'm so glad you asked me this question, because for me it's two entirely different jobs. So it's a spot on question, and I think for me, I definitely prefer film. And the reason being that I was always, but again, I'm gonna repeat myself. So state the obvious again. So because I've always been one of those really actresses that I guess was looking for the intimacy within the character, and I was always looking to inhabit the character and being kind of like, I'm a little bit method, you know, and so I was always trying to be rather than show, and a direct consequence of that was my approach and acting style. And so my personal preference is film because of that. So my style was always more suitable for the camera rather than, you know, the stage. Having said this, I have done stage. I did it particularly at the beginning of my very early years, so when I was 20, in my early 20s, and I enjoyed it. I can't say that I would shine on stage because, yeah, because of that, because of what I just said. But it gives you that adrenaline, and you're like, you know, it's an amazing feeling. So The last play I did was The Killing of Sister George in 2016, and I did that in Twickenham. I did it with an amazing cast. It was like 4 women. I had so much fun. A few clashes with the director because of, he was constantly asking me to be bigger. But I really enjoy stage. But if I had to choose between the two, definitely film, and that's why I always did way more film. I felt like I was just simply better, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
But I think, as a good actress, you would do stage very well,
Both,
because
yeah,
you're not afraid to take risks. You're not afraid to,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
obviously, you're not afraid to take risks.
I'm not afraid to take risks.
What
At
you
this
do is
point,
right.
I am,
So, okay.
yeah.
So we all have our kind of jobs in the awakening. We were talking about this on the phone kind of thing, where we all have a job to do. So yours is to barrel, literally, to be
There you
able to
go.
show
Yeah,
everything that's going on
yeah,
inside, to be
yeah,
completely raw.
yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. So I want to go back to just asking you another few questions around the film first. So is this actually your autobiography?
Yeah.
Have you taken that from an actual experience that you've gone through, where
Yeah,
you've had this serious addiction to another
yeah,
human being, to
yeah,
the point where you really couldn't function, and when they break up from you, you literally wanted to end your life, to put it, bluntly?
yeah. So this film was exactly triggered by that. So the story you saw in the film is the story that made it happen. So it's the story that inspired the making of the film and my way of overcoming that trauma. But it wasn't just merely about the love story. And this is, I think, the point I really want to stress. That I'm a writer in the film. And that's the only autobiographical thing that I changed, because otherwise I would have been like Anna Alfieri, the aspiring actress slash now filmmaker, apparently. And that would have been awful. That would have been plain awful, because that's really just so cheesy. And I didn't want that. And I thought, being a writer adds that layer of romanticism to the whole thing, and it lends itself much better to the kind of story I want to tell. And so yeah, so me being a writer is the only autobiographical element that I changed. Obviously, also my original girlfriend wasn't French; she was Hungarian, but and I can't. Yeah, she wasn't exact. They were obviously different people. But there were, I guess, similarities between the two, and so that's where my casting, um, choice came from. If that makes
Okay,
sense.
okay, I see.
Does that
Right.
answer?
And yes, it does. And we basically rewrite about our experiences. Obviously, we write about the experiences we go through. We teach from the most painful things that we go through. Then we get to a
Yep.
point where we're able to take back responsibility and teach about them. So so basically, you put everything into this. You said you put what, something like £30,000.
So I
Which is
put so
nothing compared to Hollywood, but
30, actually,
the industry.
initially it was less, and then because I had to like post post-production was never ending, so I had to go back and recut the film multiple times. I had to do the sound mix more than once. So for 3 years in a row, pretty much, I was editing this goddamn film that was never ending. And I paid an awful lot of money. Like I paid 10 grand. So in total it was 40 grand, sorry. But those 10 grand were on top of the rest, and they were just to clear music rights, because I don't know if you noticed, I have all these weird songs, Italian, French, that
La
are
Vie en
old,
Rose, Piaf.
but they're still
You're
under
into it as
copyright.
well, everything.
Incredibly still under copyright. And so I had to clear those rights. And I tried removing some of them, and I did remove some of them, but I couldn't replace all of them. And so eventually I was like, you know what? I'm going to pay for the music I love. But otherwise it would have been less, 30 grand. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So one thing I noticed is a lot. It starts with you with a bicycle, right? You're getting on. You're parking your bike, and then all through the movie, there's times when you go back to that.
Yeah.
What's the significance of that? Is that something to do with just keep going, keep moving on? It's or that.
I think I did a really bad job in the film, because not everyone. Okay, this is a question that some people ask. Some people get the bike, some people don't get the bike. So there's a short. It's a very short scene, but there's a flashback when I am moving with all my stuff, and I go back to the bike, and the bike is kind of like attached to this lamppost, and it's all over the place, and it's kind of like upside down. And I try and get the bike, but I've got my luggage, my cat, my guitar, and so I decide to temporarily leave the bike there. And then there's this short flashback, which is probably a little bit too short, which shows that the bike was in fact a present from Robin.
Okay, so it's
Yeah, not everyone. Yeah, I guess you gotta be very,
heart.
yeah, you have to be very, very kind of like pay a lot of attention in that scene in order to get it, or like be really alert. But yeah, no, you're not the only one.
Sorry, did I miss it? Is there a scene where she gives you the bike?
Yeah, there's a flashback.
Because I wasn't able to watch the whole thing. I kind of jumped it a bit.
Oh, right. No. There is a flashback, yes. All right, yes.
No, I'm sure you got the whole point.
Thank God. So I might not have done such a bad job then.
So I loved one of the things you said, which was, in order to get to our creativity, we have to go through the madness. I loved it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. In the film, which is exactly true.
It's exactly.
First of all,
I'll tell you, there's no creativity without madness.
You get a label, don't you?
It's necessary. It's necessary. Again, like, and I think, yeah, I don't want to say that pain is the best source of inspiration, because I don't want to end up like a masochist. But it's a very big, you know, you do end up. I did end up like, after this film, it's almost like I got addicted to pain, because it had been such a big source of inspiration for me, because obviously it inspired this crazy story, which was cathartic. And so, you know, you go through, you know, and actors might be a little bit masochistic. I think there must be a masochistic component within us at times, but then I think so. And you gotta be very like careful about that, because it's destructive. It's not good. So you gotta realize, and I really got addicted to, and I was in my character, which was me. So I was, you know, kind of like, couldn't let that part of me go for a very long time. And I had to really work hard to say, look, say goodbye to your demons. They were your allies. They were your friends. They helped you for this period of time when you had to like work on this project. But now, nice, hi demons. Now I've used you. I don't need you anymore. You can leave. And I literally had to repeat that to myself, within myself.
That line is exactly, if you could describe the life of a creative being, For a lot of the time we can't get anywhere with our art, and there is a sense of masochism, definitely.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
hurting all the time. You hurt like hell because you can't get anywhere. You can't get anywhere. And a lot of the time you don't know what to do. You just want to
Yeah.
do what you love. And people say to you, oh, do a job, but you can't. You want to literally, you can't. You
Yeah.
have to do what you love. And
Yeah.
you have to come to a point in your life, like now I'm on movie on TV, and I still don't earn anything, and I haven't got a sponsor yet, and I have very few viewers, but I absolutely love it. Every day I find a new creative way of doing
Right.
comedy or a new video, and it just uses, and the colors of my hair. I can be a blonde, I can be a redhead, I can be whatever I want. I don't need a stage anymore. This is it. I've created it all on
Yeah.
here. But up until then, the reason I fell apart was because I couldn't get any work with what I loved. I didn't even know what that meant. I have a big story. I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
going to get into mine, but I want to come back to what the mental health issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to talk about that. And so when I saw the name borderline, I thought, wow, this is crazy synchronicity. Here I am talking to people, saying to them, and I'm saying it from the heart, it's a complex needs disorder. Every single one of you is walking around with it. So don't judge people and don't stigmatize people when they get addicted to something, because you get addicted to everything. They're all addicted to Christmas now and presents. You kill yourself to buy
They're addicted to
presents for
masks.
one day. They're addicted to, yes. Well, we won't, as I say, we can't talk about that.
Sorry.
But no, metaphorical ones and symbolic ones.
Yeah. Oh,
So
metaphorically.
everyone's an addict. I don't think there is a human being on this planet that is not
I
addicted to
agree.
something. So how can you tell us a little bit about your history? Did you get diagnosed with BPD the same way as myself?
Yeah. I
You
go.
did.
I can. I
What's
really. I'm very. I feel very free to talk about it, and I have no. I seem to have no filters, so why not? No,
That's funny.
why am I
Tourette.
not? I
I
made a
call it
film
the
about. I made a
Tourette's
bloody
part.
film
Yeah.
about that. No, but yes, it's a good question. I was diagnosed with it the first time in my teens. I used to suffer from eating disorders from the age of 16 to the age of basically moving to London was my recovery year. When I was 22 was the final back to normal, sort of like, and it wasn't like overnight, but almost. It was like a transition phase, 1 year, I think, from 21 to 22, when I increasingly got better. And then when I moved to London, I was basically like, and I think it's not a coincidence, because I started, I got out of, I got away from my family. I got away from an environment that was maybe a little bit suppressing for me. And I found myself as an individual through acting, or maybe I was under the illusion of finding myself through acting. But yeah, going back to your question, yes, somebody diagnosed me with BPD back in those years. So I was 18, and somebody was like, yeah, but this is not an eating disorder like a primary one. This girl doesn't really, it's just like an addiction, and she is borderline. And one person that saw me amongst many made the diagnosis. And then more recently, like the following years, somebody else came up with it. But again, it's a very difficult diagnosis, because somebody would come out from it, and then one other person would deny it. would say, I don't know if you're familiar with this. I would like to know what you experience. But that was my experience. So it was also very, and also my parents were in denial. My mom was in denial. No, you're not it. Almost as if it was something that she, you know, I didn't have problem saying I'm gay. And they accepted it perfectly. But this was a taboo word, like something that my
Line is exactly, if you could describe the life of a creative being. For a lot of the time, we can't get anywhere with our art, and there is a sense of masochism, definitely.
yeah
You're
yeah
hurting all the time. You hurt like hell because you can't get anywhere. You can't get anywhere, and a lot of the time, you don't know what to do. You just want to
yeah
do what you love, and people say to you, "Oh, do a job," but you can't. You want to literally, you can't. You
yeah
have to do what you love, and
yeah
you have to come to a point in your life. Like now, I run movie on TV, and I still don't earn anything, and I haven't got a sponsor yet, and I have very few viewers, but I absolutely love it. Every day I find a new creative way of doing comedy or a new video, and it just uses, and the colors of my hair. I can be a blonde, I can be a redhead, I can be whatever I want. I don't need a stage anymore. This is it. I've created it all on
yeah
here. But up until then, the reason I fell apart was because I couldn't get any work with what I loved. I didn't even know what that meant. I have a big story. I'm
yeah
not
yeah
going to get into mine, but I want to come back to what the mental health issue. Yeah.
yeah
So we need to talk about that. And so when I saw the name borderline, I thought, wow, this is crazy synchronicity. Here I am talking to people, saying to them, and I'm saying it from the heart, it's a complex needs disorder. Every single one of you is walking around with it. So don't judge people and don't stigmatize people when they get addicted to something, because you get addicted to everything. They're all addicted to Christmas now and presents. You kill yourself to buy
they're addicted to
presents for
masks.
one day. They're addicted to, yes. Well, we won't, as I say, we can't talk about that.
Sorry.
But no, metaphorical ones and symbolic ones.
Yeah. Oh,
So
metaphorically.
everyone's an addict. I don't think there is a human being on this planet that is not addicted
I
to
agree.
something. So how can you tell us a little bit about your history? Did you get diagnosed with BPD the same way as myself?
Yeah. I can, I really, I'm very, I feel very free to talk about it, and I seem to have no filters, so why not? No,
That's funny.
why on earth
Tourette.
not? I
I
made a
call it
film
the
about, I
Tourette
made a bloody
part.
film
Yeah.
about that. No, but yes, it's a good question. I was diagnosed with it the first time in my teens. I used to suffer from eating disorders from the age of 16 to the age of, basically, moving to London was my recovery year. When I was 22 was the final back to normal, sort of like, and it wasn't like overnight, but almost. It was like a transition phase, 1 year, I think, from 21 to 22, when I increasingly got better. And then when I moved to London, I was basically like, and I think it's not a coincidence, because I started, I got out of, I got away from my family. I got away from an environment that was maybe a little bit suppressing for me, and I found myself as an individual through acting, or maybe I was under the illusion of finding myself through acting. But yeah, going back to your question, yes, somebody diagnosed me with BPD back in those years. So I was 18, and somebody was like, yeah, but this is not an eating disorder like a primary one. This girl doesn't really, it's just like an addiction, and she is borderline. And one person that saw me amongst many made that diagnosis. And then more recently, like the following years, somebody else came up with it. But again, it's a very difficult diagnosis, because somebody would come out from it, and then one other person would deny it. So would say, I don't know if you're familiar with this. I would like to know what you experienced, but that was my experience. So it was also there. And also my parents were in denial. My mom was in denial. No, you're not it. Almost as if it was something that she could, I didn't have problems say I'm gay, and they accepted it perfectly. But this was a taboo word, like something that my mom couldn't really accept. And I never understood whether she kept saying, no, you're not, because she actually thought that I wasn't, or because she just couldn't accept that I was.
Could have been her guilt. A lot of the time, parents blame themselves when when something like that happens. But the thing is that this is a condition that, as I say, every single person's walking around with complex needs disorder. My personal story was I lost my twin in the womb.
You said,
I'm what's known as a womb twin survivor, which gives you the same symptoms of abandonment, symptoms of eating disorders, symptoms of addictions, because you're always looking. Elvis had a twin that he lost, and that was one of the reasons he had all these addictions. So I've done a huge amount of research on it, because I recovered without medication in a therapeutic community, and that's what I teach now. I never use medicine at all. I never use medication or anything like that. That was my journey, and I'm proud of it. And I've been blocked everywhere for obvious reasons. I'm not allowed to talk about it anyway, except on moving on TV. So, but what you're saying is, I think the reason that also people don't want anything to do with it is because it's got such bad press.
yeah.
When I went into the therapeutic community, they tar everyone with the same brush. And they would say to me things like, you're lying, you're this, you're that. And I said,
You're
no, because
manipulative.
because
Yeah.
everybody has a different degree of one or two or 10 of these symptoms. I
Yeah.
even wrote a song about it. It goes like this, right? A little bit of agoraphobia, a little bit of OCD, a little bit of claustrophobia. That's BPD. A little bit of depression, laced with it's all about me, narcissism. A couple of Tourette's. Now what comes next? That's BPD. Doom, doom,
Oh,
doom.
I
A
love
little bit.
that.
Hang on, there's more. It goes on forever. A little bit of autism, a little bit of ADD or ADHD,
Yes, I do have
a cup of paranoia. You're looking at me. That's BPD. Now add in
it.
schizoid tendencies and make it all about me. Narcissism. A spoon of manic states got a lot on our plates with a monkey brain that I cannot train. That's BPD. It's all about me and OCD and PTSD, and it goes on and on and on and on. And you can't you
Thank you
cannot
so much.
medicate it.
It's so good. It's so good. You described me. You
And
described me.
me. And everyone I know. you
It's so
you
good. It's
you
so
pick up
good.
everything that's around you, Anna, your
Yes.
parents, your grandparents. It's like my grandmother was miserable. She used to wake up, and so you pick that up. The whinger, the complainer, the martyr. There's a wonderful book that is called Walking on Eggshells. And if anybody thinks their partner may have the symptoms of complex needs disorder, because I'm not prepared to call it a mental illness anymore. It's a complex needs. And especially since the lockdowns, I'd say that the whole of the human race has got something wrong, some kind
Yeah.
of trouble now. And unfortunately, children. But this book, Walking on Eggshells, is a very good book because it analyzes all the characters that you are, that every single character. So if we look at it, the way I look at it is 99% of people are creative, and they're probably mediums, so they hear voices, right? So they're probably clairaudient or clairvoyant, or I don't know, maybe people can even jump into different bodies these days, who knows? But they're not mentally ill, and you cannot medicate this. There's too many things. I mean, if they medicate you for your head issues, say you can't sleep, yeah, and the medication they give you to help you to sleep will, then you've got to medicate the fact that you're scared of everything and you keep washing your hands all the time. But this all comes from the way you were brought up as a child. You're shocked. So where, as I say, my big shock was when I lost my twin. I didn't want to be born. I remember everything, as it was a tiny fetus, but I remembered it about 7 years ago, and it really explained to me, it got rid of a lot of my codependency as well, and it really helped me. And then I went to live in Israel, and there were wars and terrorism and childhood abuse and bullying, and it wasn't from my family. I always say that the bullying was, but not the other sexual abuse, thank God. And then I'm an artist, and I just want to perform, and I can't. And so the head goes completely out of control. You lose your balance. Your mother dies. You get the menopause, and they diagnose you. Luckily, they diagnosed me because it was the beginning of my massive spiritual awakening, because I didn't realize I was carrying my childhood's guilt. And the minute that went away, I got the freedom and the symptoms disappeared. So where did we go back with you? Where did all this start? What do you think caused all of this to go out of control? I'm going to mute now because I'm going to focus.
I have absolutely no idea. And yeah, it's interesting you asked me that question. I think my current therapist tried asking me that question like a month ago, and I couldn't pinpoint or identify a specific episode in my life that potentially triggered my, you know, this sort of like attachment. I don't even want to call it a disorder. I almost have a repulsion saying the word disorder. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't. I think it was more likely a series of things. But I will tell you one thing. I was always under the impression, since I was a young kid, a very, very young kid, that I was a bit of an alien. Not sure this is common, but it was always like, I always felt like I was different, and I can't tell you why. Maybe because of my sensibility, I think, because I had a perception of things. Like I remember as a kid, I would cry so easily. I would be everything would make me cry, but I was also like I couldn't stay still. Obviously, I've got ADHD, so hyperactivity disorder, actors for you. So I was very, very lively, like always on a tree, always like, and I was a tomboy, obviously. But I remember this factor, like, yeah, I would cry very, very easily. Somebody would hurt me emotionally, and I would be like, I was very attached to my mom, wanted to be with my mom all the time. Didn't like going to school, didn't like going to kindergarten. So yeah, I know I was a difficult kid, but I don't know why I was a difficult kid.
You weren't a difficult kid. You were just different. You're just unique.
An
And you
alien.
are an alien. You are. You see, we are. This is the thing. We are. We're
Yeah,
different. We're different.
yeah,
And now it's obvious that we're not from here because of what we know and how we're dealing with the situation in the world. We're dealing with it differently. I think our
yeah,
creativity is going through the roof.
It's
and our
yeah.
talents and skills are getting so strong. We're going back to love, because we are love. We're the vibration of love. And I think that's what we came here to try and help the human race to come back into that vibration, because they were hijacked in some way by the something that really didn't help them. So, when you say you were a difficult kid. My mum blamed me for everything. She never took responsibility. It was always you, Lauren. You were the one who wanted too much food from me when you were born. Yeah. And I was I'm a baby, a baby. But apparently I never stopped crying. I wanted to eat all the time. Yeah, but I just lost my twin. I didn't want to be born, and they never ever spoke about it. As I said, I didn't find
Wow.
out till 7 years, 8 years ago, I found out. But you see, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you as a child. It's the perception of society.
Yeah.
Society decides that's how you're going to be, and you're going to be in your little box, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do that. And if you don't, then there's something wrong with you. Unfortunately, you're not born with those issues. Maybe I was, because I had
I
abandonment already in the womb. So
was.
lucky me. I know why I'm here to deal with all of that. But most people are born, they don't have these issues. They're born, and then they get little by little, they take on values, beliefs, personalities, the physical rather than what's inside. And so you were just a normal child that was born into something that you just didn't know how to vibrate with, all of that. And now you're an adult. I mean, okay. Are your parents alive, by the way?
Yes, yes, they are both alive, thankfully.
You know
That's
where I'm
wood.
going with this.
But yeah, no, no, they're both in Italy and they're both alive. Yes.
Have they seen the film?
Yeah. Oh my God, they saw it. Obviously, they saw pretty much every cut. So they saw the evolution of the film over 3 years. So you can imagine how embarrassing it would have been for me to watch some
I
scenes
can't
with my.
imagine how you
Yeah,
could sit there
it was
with your
kind
mom and dad
of.
looking at you, yeah, looking at those
Yeah.
scenes. So, I mean,
So.
what did they, how did they react?
Um,
Oh, you're
well,
so
they
brave.
thought the first versions were definitely long, so they were the ones saying, "Cut it down, Anna." Particularly my dad was like, "You have to make this shorter." It was very very like that. Yeah, no, they thought it was good, but they always, it was interesting. My parents, I think they saw how many expectations I was developing as a consequence of all the heart and soul I put into this film, because of the nature of it, the very nature of it. And so they were always warning me not to have expectations. They were always warning me. My mom was always saying, yeah, you've made a really good film. I'm so proud of you, but don't expect people to get it. Don't expect anything to come out of it. But I also have parents who always told me, don't expect acting to be the thing that will make you earn a living. So I have very, very cautious parents, and I had to fight very, very hard in order to pursue this career, because they were a bit against it. So yeah, it was a struggle.
I'm amazed. I mean, my mother wouldn't watch it. There's no way, if she was alive, there's no way she would have watched
Uh,
me that way, completely
well,
nude in a film. So your parents are obviously quite progressive that way.
yeah, yeah, they are.
So they give
They
you a
are. Yeah.
chance to express everything. And I suppose also by watching it, they were able to understand more about what you go through, because isn't that how we show our people? We show them what's really going on inside. I mean, that one of the scenes, as I say, I can't say too much, is that really, really was really painful. There are scenes, some of one of the biggest scene, you know what I mean, near
The end.
when it doesn't work out. Yeah.
Uh,
If I, being a parent and watching that, and knowing that my child had gone
Mhm.
through such enormous
Mhm.
suffering that they couldn't come to me and say, help. I mean, how was the relationship with your mum when you were growing up?
No, it's a very, very interesting question. So I was one of the, I guess I fall into the BPD category that had a hyperprotective mom. So my parents were always very, very aware of, also because of the eating disorder, because it was, that made it very, very obvious. You know, I was weighing 40 kilos, which is 10 kilos less than now. You know, so I was very, very skinny. And so obviously they were worried like, you know, crazy when I was going through that. And my mom particularly, because my mom is very apprehensive, very, I guess she's a very Italian mom. And yes, and she's very, you know, she suffers from anxiety. So I guess she also has quite a few disorders herself. Um, but but yeah, they were always aware of the pain and the extent of it, but they didn't seem to, and that's why they were desperate. They wanted to help me, but they didn't know how to, and that's why, you know, like even all the therapists that I saw, to be honest with you, weren't very helpful. The most helpful of them all said, "This kid needs to go." I mean, I wasn't even a kid; I was 20. This girl needs to just get away and follow her own path. She needs to live her life, and I think it would be good for her if she moved to London. And that's the year I moved to London
Yeah.
to act, even though I was already acting in Milan. But I had to really, acting was a very big part of it. But I guess moving away from not just home but the country, you know, changing country was a very big step for
So
me.
you from Italy to England, and
Yeah.
now you're in Germany. And
Yeah,
as I
but I'm
say,
coming back. It's
you're
not
coming back
last.
to England.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
I'm
so
coming back
why
to
are
the
you in
UK.
Germany? Is that because something to do with the release of the film, or
Boom.
are you
Yeah,
living? Right. Okay. Okay.
yeah.
So are you in a partnership at the moment? Are you enjoying yourself in a partnership, a healthy partnership,
Oh,
or is
you mean a relationship?
yeah
Oh,
relationship?
I think yeah. After the film, it's been really weird. I've had quite a lot of relationships, but none of them that serious. And even the relationship I had till a while, like till a week ago, like a couple of weeks ago here in Berlin, was more like a fling. So I guess like I've you know, uh, I've moved on to the casual sort of like lifestyle of maybe after borderline, I kind of felt like, you know, I was done with emotional turmoil, and so I chose superficial relationships instead. No, but you know, the thing is, it's not that easy to find somebody who sweeps. You know, like one thing is physical attraction, one thing is, but then in order to really get deeply romantically involved with somebody, you know, it's not that easy. It doesn't happen that often. At
It's
least it doesn't
yeah.
that
All
often.
the weaknesses come up, and you've got, this is the thing, all the weaknesses come up the minute you get into love relationship. I've seen it time and time again. When love comes in, the weaknesses come up. I remember, I'm now separated, but when I was married, when I met my husband, my eating disorder, everything came up and then it disappeared completely. But it was interesting that I had with me, but everything else came up. So I just swapped it. I swapped it. You know what I mean? I swapped my eating disorder for another one, for another addiction,
Yeah,
another addiction, another addiction. We
exactly.
swap addictions
Yeah,
around.
so true.
And,
So true.
you know, so basically, the most important thing is you've got to get to know yourself and to live with that void. I've been on my own now. I've been married in a year and a half. I want to be 2 years single before I get into another relationship because I'm getting so strong. You've got to develop a higher power.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing what's really beautiful, Anna, is when I'm on my own, say when my ex comes around, something happens and it's like, what did it triggers you? And what happened there? And that's why it's very interesting. You can put your finger on what it is that's bothering you.
Yeah.
I had a dad who fixed everything. Dad was my fixer. And of course, when I got married, I suppose that's what I expected. I expected my husband to fix everything. But I've been working through, I mean, last week, I wouldn't let go of a box of cereal that my dad used to eat Rice Krispies all the time. I was screaming and crying. I miss my dad. I miss my dad. But it was brilliant. I've eaten them.
Yeah.
I've eaten them now.
Yeah.
I knew the minute I could open it and eat the Rice Krispies, it meant that I'd let Dad go. You know, but all your issues are going to come up when you get into a relationship. And so you've got to do all this work on yourself. And you've got Oliver the cat. Best thing of all. Oliver the ginger cat.
Oh, yeah. I am. I'm gonna say something incredibly sad now. Yeah, yeah. Look, I still haven't really got over it, and it was 2 years ago. Oliver was run over by a car. I'm not kidding you. 2 weeks before my first premiere in America, which wasn't the official premiere because the film was still not the final cut, but I had my film was selected for a festival in California, so it was the first big event with this film, I guess. And it's always that bloody timing in life. And I know I'm not the only one, because I heard so many people telling me the same thing, like something really great is gonna happen in their life or is happening, and at the same time something like tragic happens. And so, you know, you go a little bit crazy because you feel so good about something, and at the same time you're grieving for something else. It was a weird, you know, it was really bad. It was really, really bad. I went on crying for months because of Oliver. It was my best friend. One of the biggest loss of my life, and maybe it was the biggest love of my life after all. I don't know, but like, you know, such a different that cat. It was sleeping on my head, you know. It's like we could speak. It's it was a magical cat.
I know. That you know what you said there. I remember years ago. My cat died, my first cat, and I got this incredible job after he died, and it was that feeling you just said, I have to lose in order to gain. I think that somewhere deep inside us, subconscious, we believe that. Nowadays, I believe he went to heaven and he got the job for me. He just
My God. It's the same that I thought. It's the same that I thought. I remember I thought that. I thought Oliver sacrificed himself for me. At the time, I kid you not. It's scary. I almost thought like in order to get that, he did that. But I mean, it's almost crazy. Or sick, but that's what I thought.
One thing I believe animals are angels. They're definitely cats. So just so funny.
Cats are magical.
Mine are 18 and they're nearly 19 years old. They don't look it. They all they do is sleep and you know, whatever, eat, sleep, and occasionally they let you cuddle them when they feel like it. I've got but you know what animals teach us as well? It's the same as we're back again to attachments. The whole of your film is about an attachment to Heidi.
Yeah,
the other
exactly.
woman, and how you cannot live without her.
Exactly.
You just can't function. You everything you do try to do everything to be able to not feel these feelings, and everything you need to do is feel your feelings. It's the
feeling
opposite. You've actually got to feel everything because
so
your
true.
feelings can't.
Because the
Hurt you.
more you gotta try to get away from it, and the more you don't get away from it.
Exactly, because what you resist
So
persists. So
exactly.
all the work I'm doing around this condition that I was labeled with is I feel everything,
Yeah.
everything. I feel
Yeah.
the panic, I feel the fear, and I got to a point in my life where I know how to bring myself back into balance. I'm looking for 10 people to practice on, who want to practice with me. But coming back to what you know, your whole film and the whole way we're brought up is not Buddhism. We're brought up to attach to
Yeah.
everything. So you know, say you put everything into this film, and I respect you the way same way as I'm putting everything into movie on TV. But it may something could happen, and the universe may say no. How are you going to deal with it? You've got to have those tools, Anna, to not fall apart. Haven't you? So what do you do? Do you meditate? The whole world's falling apart around us. We can see
Exactly. It's
what
so
do you
good
do?
that you just said it. You said what I wanted to get to next. It's crazy.
I
We
do
must
that. I do. It just
no,
comes
I'm so
through.
glad you mentioned this, because this is the whole point. I finished the film, my premiere was gonna be not the premiere, but I rescinded a distribution contract exactly when the first lockdown happened. So, moving back to what, going back to what you just asked me, it's like your whole world, the whole world you just built is collapsing, because I was expecting for 2020, I was expecting finally the year of rewards, the year of enjoying the success coming from the film,
Me too. I had
and
done workshops. Sorry, the butts in there.
no, please go on. No, please go on. It's like if feels like we're in the same
work. I was building a new musical based on mental health. I had the cast, I had nearly everything. They were giving me money, grants. I was opening workshops. I've got loads of footage. And then the lockdown happened. They took it all away. And I was sure that I was on my path. And then I had to step back, and I created Moving on TV. But I really want, I know what you're talking about. Anyway, carry on. Carry on. It all went.
well, no, it destroyed me. It destroyed me. I'm so happy you said this, because it destroyed me. And at the time I was living in London in a warehouse. In a creative warehouse. So it was a peculiar place, really. Of London, and I was we were in that house, like it was 12 of us, 12 people. So I was going crazy because all the uncertainty coming from this, like nobody, also I had just rescinded a contract with an American distributor because they wanted me to make the change, to make changes to the film that I didn't want to make. And so I had a year of nothingness. I found a sales agent in the meantime, but the film wasn't going anywhere for a year. They weren't able to put it in any festival, and I was jobless. I was receiving money from the government. I know we shouldn't talk about politics, but sorry, that was my I was jobless, unemployed, and also not easy to find employment. I was doing some online, sorry, some over the phone interpreting, but not a lot really. And I don't know how I cope with it. I started going to the gym. I put on muscles, and that was my way of like feeling strong in my body and reacting to it. So, and I did think about making another film using what I was going through, but I guess I was so drained emotionally by everything that had happened to me, and by the film I had made, that I couldn't find that motivation anymore because I hadn't enjoyed the rewards. Coming from the film. And so it's almost like there's a word for it. It's called learned helplessness. You feel like you're helpless. helpless. You feel like, what, the weapons that I thought I had for the film I made, Borderline, before I saw you using my pain in order to create, which was initially a driving force, and it was empowering me. Was at the end destroying me, or it wasn't there anymore, you know. I couldn't use, I didn't feel like I was empowered by anything, because, you know, anything could happen and wipe it all away. And to be honest with you, I still really haven't enjoyed any practical rewards coming from this. Yes, I've had, you know, satisfaction coming from it, I guess, festivals and some reviews and distribution here in Germany. But you know, in terms of like career, progression, it's tough. It's a tough business.
About it. Do you know what? I always enjoy the actual process of the build up a lot of the time. I love the rehearsals. I always used to love the rehearsals
Best
because
thing.
everything becomes too stressful afterwards, quite honestly.
Yeah.
So when you're in the creation, it's amazing. And then everything
Yeah,
starts can fall
exactly.
apart. The audio
Exactly.
starts tearing up, or the film doesn't go out
Exactly.
there, and you're ended up you you've ended up looking at all your work and it's not gone anywhere. So we're living in a world now where I actually went to see a therapist today because I'm going through an eviction. Everybody knows, and they know I put it all out there, everything. And we're living in a world where we sat there and I said, you know, I've got no certainty. I don't. That's why you have to stay in the moment, and you have to learn how to connect inside to spirit. And this is not religious. So meditation, meditation doesn't always work. A lot of the time it doesn't work. But I tell you, the way I've always connected to spirit since I was thirteen years old, it's through singing. I didn't even know what spirit was, but I'll never forget. I went to my singing teacher. I was already performing everywhere with orchestras. I was like a lead soprano. And I remember she gave me these exercises. In my voice and higher and higher and higher and higher. And I thought, oh, that's weird. I don't think I'm in my body anymore.
Yeah.
And so when I come on to moving on TV, and I love making singing and making videos of me singing, like silly ones, or I do whatever I feel like. So I've created a safety net. However, it could go tomorrow. There may be no internet. and I'm thinking,
Jesus,
luckily now I love sitting in nature. I love doing nothing. But it's taken me a year and a half to
so yeah,
build myself to that point of, oh my God, I'm on my own with two cats. So what would happen? I mean, as I said to you, we don't know. Something's coming. It's got to. The only way it's going to create enough, something's brewing, and it's brewing big. We can see it,
yeah, yeah.
and we can't expect anything. You see, another thing that helps me is I'm an angel of God. I'm here, an angel of love. And my journey is part of a huge, huge journey of the whole
Yeah.
world, of the whole tapestry of humanity, right? And if I'm meant to do something, then I believe that spirit will keep me doing it. If
I
I'm meant to not work, then I won't work. If I'm meant, but it will just work out. And I've developed a really strong belief in that now. I've been watching my life, and I've got to a point where the whole of my family cut me off 6 years ago, and my dad died. They all live in Israel, and I'm so grateful it happened 6 years ago, Anna. Because now, if it happened now, I don't think I deal with it. So what I'm trying to say is, for the viewers, because we're here to help people to live their dreams, yes, and to be creative and to do what they love. But that dream has to rely on you.
You.
You can't, if it relies on other people too much, or if it relies on the world, it could crash any minute. So
Precisely.
how do you do that? How are you going to make sure that you're going, because your sanity should be number one. I know as a creative being, I'm an actress and I'll
Because you're constantly looking for validation. Yeah, you're constantly looking for validation, and it's a mistake because we all do it. And as a filmmaker, I was looking forward to the feedback. I was looking forward to the metaphorical applause or physical applause, and you mentioned the most important thing throughout this whole process. Even when you manage to follow your dreams and with a lot of, you know, struggle and passion and stamina, you manage to make something get to the end, and you know, and then you're relying on things that are outside of your control. And as you said, what if it doesn't happen? What if, or what if the feedback is not positive? Are you going to kill yourself because of that? No. I mean, that's not the healthy solution.
No.
But that's what you're tempting, because that's what I honestly, can I be honest? Like, that was my instinct. I was like, I want to kill myself. This is, I put everything